Hey guys, welcome back to Jeff Talks, where we talk about personal life experiences, pet peeves, things I've learned along the way that I feel would be relevant, somewhat entertaining for you to hear. Maybe save you some headache or hassle, or maybe push you in the right direction. Anyways, today we're going to be talking about what it was like for me dating a stripper, the pros and cons. So, when I was like 23, I lived near a really cool lake in Seattle called Green Lake. It has like a 3-mile perimeter paved thing. People bicycle, walk, rollerblade, skateboard. There's restaurants, bars around. It was a really cool area. Really cool time. I was like half a block from the lake. So one day I'm riding my electric skateboard. This is before they were like mainstream and you'd see them, before they had a lot of electric vehicles and stuff. I was riding my electric skateboard around the lake, and there was no one on the lake because it was like a winter day. It was dry, but it was cold. And I come up behind this woman, and I had to stop because there was like 15 geese slowly crossing the path. And she was just stopped there letting them cross. And I kind of came up to her on my skateboard and had to stop too, right next to her. And she looked at me and she's like, "You got to yield to the traffic," or she said something like that. And so I was like, "Yeah, they got the right of way," or, I don't know whatever happened. But that was kind of how we started talking. Then once the geese crossed, we kind of continued, she continued walking and I continued slowly throttling my skateboard with her. And we ended up chatting for like 45 minutes. Ended up getting her on the skateboard and letting her try it out. And I was just blown away by this woman. She was gorgeous, like a celebrity, just gorgeous face, in shape, bubbly, high energy, just charismatic, and seemed to be like into me too. So I ended up getting her number and ended up hanging out with her. And it was interesting. This woman had like ample free time and ample money. It seemed like, any day I'd be like, "Hey, you want to get together?" She'd be like, "Sure." I'm like, "How about 2:00?" And I was like, "Sure." And I'm like, "Oh, wait, I forgot I have this to do at 2. How about 9:00? Oh, sure." She was free all the time. And we ended up doing all these adventures together, going bungee jumping and going skydiving multiple times and taking trips. And she always had tons of money and tons of free time. And I'd ask her, "What do you do for income, or what do you do for a living?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm a nanny." And I remember thinking, a nanny, that doesn't really add up. Like something's going on here, because you're free all the time and you got all this money. I mean, who are you watching, and what time are you watching them? So that kind of lasted for like 3-4 months. She would just tell me a nanny, and I never really asked more questions. And then one night we ended up getting drunk together, and she told me she was a dancer. And I'm like, "Ballet?" And she's like, "No, not ballet, exotic, stripper." And I was like, "Oh, well, that explains a lot of things." And it wasn't a big deal. I've actually kind of had a childhood dream, not childhood, but when I was a teenager, I'm like, it'd be fun to date a stripper, For some reason, I thought I would look for prestige or something dating a woman that's a stripper, I don't know where that came from, but I was like, I don't care. She's not a prostitute, or I didn't think she was. So I was like, I don't mind her being a stripper. And there was a lot of cool things that came with that. Again, she had tons of money. I'd pick her up from work at the strip club, and she'd open her purse and it would just be full of cash, of ones, fives, tens, 20s, 50s, hundreds, just full, all unorganized. And not only tons of cash, but like a stack of business cards from men all around the United States, all around the world, that come and want to take her out or think they were going to get with her or something. So they would give her the business card. So she'd always have stacks of business cards. And it was funny, men would buy her shit too. Like one guy bought her a jet ski and a trailer. She didn't even have a way to tow it. She had like a Volkswagen Jetta, didn't have a trailer hitch. This guy buys her a jet ski. So she had this brand new jet ski at her place that she couldn't even use. I mean, men were just simps, man. They were rolling over, spending money. I'd drop her off, and she would get like, in a 4-hour shift, she would make, I think, $1,200 to $1,500 in 4 hours. She'd have to pay the house a couple $100, I think, but not bad income. And another perk, I would sometimes go to work. She loved Coors Light, which I loved Coors Light. And she'd always want me to bring her some Coors Light while she was at work. And I remember going and making friends. She introduced me to the bouncer, this big, muscular dude. Made friends with him. I'd go, he'd let me in the back door, and I would go into the changing room where there was like 7 to 10 women, all getting ready, doing their makeup, changing outfits. Some were naked, some were topless. It was just like, and there would be me with I want to say her name, with her on my lap, having some beers. And I'm like, man, I feel like Hugh Hefner. I feel like I'm big pimping. This is cool. She'd go out, do some dancing, make a couple $100, come back in. I'd be flirting with all the other girls. I ended up hooking up with a few of the other girls. I ended up having my first threesome with this stripper and one of her friends. Probably could have had more if I really tried, but I was just kind of happy being with her. Now, the con dating her is, I'm like, longevity, this is probably not going to work. I don't want to get married and have children probably with a stripper, because they usually have childhood trauma. That's why they're a stripper. And usually they have trouble aging because their identity through their looks is like kind of their identity. It's who they are. So when that starts slipping as they get older, sometimes they have breakdowns. Not always, but it can be pretty hard for them. And I also felt like being intimate with her wasn't as much fun as being intimate with some of my other girlfriends that weren't strippers. There just seemed to be more emotion involved. There seemed to be like, it was just, you were more connected. With this person, it felt like she was just kind of going through the act, and it was fun. Don't get me wrong. It was fun, but it just felt like something was missing. Like, I just didn't really feel like there was love. It just felt like she was kind of she knew I wanted it, so she was providing it. But did I say it was fun? It was a good time. We had a lot of fun. So, that's just been my experience. Only dated one in my entire life, and that's how it went down. And we're still friends to this day. We don't talk as much. Maybe once every 6 months to a year, we'll catch up and go grab a bite or something. And she's ended up getting married with this guy. And it's funny, she ended up quitting the strip club and meeting this guy. I think she met him at the strip club. Some multi-millionaire, mega rich dude down in California. And he's like, I don't want you to strip anymore. How about I just pay you $25,000 a month allowance, and I'll fly you down once a month and take care of you, and never have to go back to work again. So that's what she ended up doing, just making $25,000 a month from this guy, probably hooking up with him, I'm sure. I met him once. He was kind of this older, creepy dude, but he was mega rich, had his own jet, airplane, and I don't know what happened. She ended up, I saw her about a year ago. She ended up getting married to a different guy, so apparently her allowance is probably over. I don't know. I've kind of drifted apart. And she kind of started getting into like voodoo, not voodoo, but like, woo-woo type crystals and energy chakra healing and all this stuff. She was always an anxious person, so I think she was just always trying to find peace, and I hope she does one day. But anyways, thought I'd share this experience on what dating a stripper was like for me. There were some pros and some cons, but I'm glad it happened. And thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next Jeff Talks.